We are heading deep into the Appalachian Mountains, one of the most active and haunted regions in the United States. The paranormal in Appalachia is far more real than most people realize. Don't forget to subscribe, and let's take a look.
Have you ever seen a devil in an Appalachian cemetery? Let me show you. This is my 5th great-grandfather's brother, and here's his grandson. Now pay attention to his parents, Robert and Evelina Dickinson. Here's Evelina's grave. Her name is intentionally spelled wrong. Consort was similar to the word used today to shame women that starts with a W. Caleb Hawkins was actually her husband. He hated her, and he had this stone made to shame her for eternity. Imagine going to a 70-year-old woman's funeral and having to look at this stone while she's buried beneath it. He wanted her to hang her head down in shame, even in the grave. Sleep on, dear Evelyn, and take that rest. God called thee home, for it was best. Here lies the little devil, Caleb Hawkins. This past spring there was a bad storm, and the whole front of his stone fell off, erasing whatever importance he thought he had. The mountains have a way of setting things right, even if it took 148 years. Evelina finally paid him back.
There was one other time where I had the literal crap scared out of me so bad that the blood in my veins turned ice cold. And that was a time when me and my friends, we had this little ghost hunting group. We would go to homes, businesses, schools, cemeteries, you name it. We went and done ghost hunting. And this night that we were going to this specific cemetery, it was like an unusual night. I remember thinking that it was during the cold months, but it was like unusually warm, and we were having like an electrical storm that night. So it was like really great temperature for ghost hunting, because it was like lightning, just one right after the other, after the other, after the other. The sky just lit up. It was dry and it was really charged. You know what I'm saying? You had that electrical charge to the air. So it's dark. We go to this cemetery. We're out there. We had just got out of the cars. We start walking around. We have our flashlights, but we try to keep our flashlights off, and we try not to make any noise. We just have our recorders going, and we're being really still. And I'm looking around, and the lightning's flashing, when all of a sudden it flashed so fast. It was there and it was gone, because the lightning's like flash, 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 flash. It was there and it was gone. And it was about 4 foot tall, snow freaking white from top to bottom. It had really long arms, like from shoulder to the ground arms. I saw the head and the torso, the arms, solid white. And it was gone in an instant. And I'm looking in the same direction, and I get so scared. Like there's something in me, and we don't get scared. We usually giggle and laugh, and, we end up having too much fun, and we end up ruining our audio. But I was literally scared freaking shitless at this thing, and did not want to be in this cemetery anymore. So I tell them, I'm like, I just saw something. I tell them what I see. So we all turn our flashlights on, and we're looking at all the tombstones, trying to see if anything resembled that. And it was actually standing kind of behind a tombstone. And I got goosebumps just thinking about it. I get uneasy thinking about it. It's just this feeling in my gut. Ooh, oh God. And, we went to many different places where, like, we'd hear things, we'd see things, we got audio, we got all kinds of good stuff. I got audio in the house that I was living in, seen things in the house that I was living in. Everybody experienced something, My husband at the time was a skeptic. He ended up becoming more of a believer after all this stuff. We had one guy got scratched on his back while he was standing there. Like my husband and my friend's husband kind of was like the skeptics, and they would taunt the spirits or whatever you want to call them. And trust me, I don't agree with doing this anymore. I have become a person who believes that there are things that we don't understand and that the Bible says you are not supposed to mess with them. And I think we should listen. Why are we as people so dumb and so curious and so nosy and greedy that we have to do things that we know could be bad? I watched my marriage fall apart. I watched my friend's marriage fall apart. They were together for years. Just and I will also tell you this other story where we actually went to a home where there was a self-unaliving. This guy, he was like 17. He was really popular. He was getting ready to graduate high school and he was living with his family. It wasn't his mom, but it was like a mom to him. And, they tell the story about how he comes home one night. He's like, "Hey, I'm going to my room." He goes in his room. She's like, "I'm getting ready to make dinner." He's like, "Okay." And so she hollers at him and says, "Hey, dinner's ready." And he doesn't come to the door. So she goes in there and she finds him and he's from the ceiling fan. So we go to do an investigation at this house. She asked us to. This woman was the sweetest woman, and she really had a hard time. I mean, understandably. I should have put a trigger warning up here. But she really struggled with this for a while. But she wanted us to come anyway. She's like, "Something's not right. I feel like there's a bad energy here." So me and my friend go in the room and I sit Indian style in the floor and she's standing above me. And she asked a question and I would ask a question and we would just be quiet and let our audio recordings pick up whatever we might pick up. And I just happened to look up at her and she looked so scary for a moment. It didn't look like her. Her hair was all wild and crazy and she looked her face looked like I had a moment where I tripped out of my mind. And I was like, "Turn the light on, turn the light on, turn the light on." And so she runs over and turns the light on and she was like, "What happened? What did you feel? What did you see?" And I tell her, and I'm getting goosebumps again. And she was like, "Chandel, the scary part is at that moment, right before you said to turn the light on," she said, "I had this horrible urge to just like bash you in the head." I was like, "Okay, we're done." And I started thinking, you know what, maybe this is not something we should be playing with. And we talked about, I prayed every time I would go to keep me protected. These were things we should not have been messing with. I'm telling you that right now. I'm a believer. You'll never convince me otherwise. And I don't want anything to do with it anymore.
A lot of people have asked me if Appalachia is really that scary. I'm going to tell you a few things that have happened to me personally. This is the house that my grandma grew up in, and this is what it used to look like when she lived there. Now that it's been abandoned for several years, it looks like this. Now this house is, I'm not kidding you, more than a mile up a dirt road on the top of a mountain. There's only one family that still lives on that whole mountain. And we've been up there quite a few times, but this was the very last time we've been up there. We were taking my grandma to see it and we had like 10 people with us. But there was a fork in the road and we couldn't figure out which way to go. So they had the bright idea to send me to go look. So I had to go quite a ways down this dirt path. And I was far away from the car and the other people by the time that I saw the house. And the screen door that's like right here just screeched open. Scared me to death. That alone could have been anything. But a couple years before, I had got the bright idea to go up this mountain by myself. No one would go with me, and I didn't think I could make it up there in my car. So I was like, well, I'll just park at the bottom of the mountain and I'll walk this whole over a mile trek up this dirt path through the woods by myself. Well, the night before I was planning to go, I had a really scary dream. So from that house that I showed you, there's this long dirt path that leads to where the barns were at. And then you have to go up a hill and here's the cemetery. In the dream I had, I was like down here, like looking up, walking up here so I could get into the cemetery. In my dream, This woman comes out of the woods, right out of the tree line, and she's just covered in black. She's got this like black veil on and this old, maybe like 1800s dress. And she just walks out of the trees and just like points like this with her veil. But I thought nothing of it really, and I went anyway. On my way there, I got in a car wreck. I just feel like something did not want me going up there. I ended up not going since I got in that wreck. It wasn't a bad wreck, but it was crazy. Okay. Maybe something worse would have happened to me if I'd went up there by myself. Who knows? The woman in my dream looked like the woman in the yard.
I don't know what I would call it. I don't know if it would be spirits. I don't know if it's ghosts. Call it whatever you want. I have no idea. Let's talk about the ghosts that I seen in my grandma's house. I don't remember how old I was. I would guess age 7 to 10 years old. So my grandma and grandpa would go to church every single Sunday. And once I got a little bit older, I was like into computers and iPads and stuff. And obviously I didn't like, going to church that much. So I wanted to stay home and play on my electronics because in the Boogie Woods, there's no service or Wi-Fi back then. So literally Wi-Fi to church back then. There was Wi-Fi at the house. But obviously I didn't want to go to church. It was boring. I would go sometimes though. So anyways, I remember asking my grandpa if I could stay home and I'll keep the door locked. I will do whatever, I just want to play my games. They agreed. They was like, yeah, that's fine. So where my grandma lives, she is literally on her own like piece of private land. And then my dad's house was directly beside her. I'm pretty sure my dad was gone. I don't know if he was working, took a trip, at a concert, whatever, but I don't remember my dad being home at that time. And right on the other piece of land beside us was literally our family. And then up on the back hill, we had more family. So it was kind of like our own little, like rural, like family area, whatever you want to call it. So they left. I don't exactly remember how this all played out, but I remember sitting at the computer desk and playing. And I got up and I went to the kitchen to get something to eat, something to snack on, get a drink, And I just felt this weird, like, energy or this presence. Like, I just felt like I was maybe being watched or something. But I was a kid, so I didn't really know how that feeling, or what that feeling meant. Does that make sense? So I went back and I sat at the computer and I felt something in there, like, watching me. And I remember looking, like, out of the corner of my eye. And the couch was like facing, so here's me at my computer, right at the computer table. And then the couch is like across the living room, but like facing that way. And I remember just like seeing someone out of the corner of my eye. And I remember turning my head and looking over. And it was this elderly lady sitting on the couch. She was like gold and she was glowing. I know that sounds so crazy. And I didn't feel like this was a negative energy or bad spirit. This was like one of my only encounters with something that didn't feel bad. I've had encounters with things that feel safe or feel good, or some that don't feel so good, or some that are really scary. But I've had more probably scary experiences than good. So I looked over. And I had to I looked at the corner of my eye, seen something, doing whatever on my computer with my snacks, whatever. And then I had to take myself back and, look back. And I don't know how to explain it. It was this elderly lady. She had very short hair. She had on Sunday service, church clothes. She was in I think a floral dress, a long dress. It was just giving church vibes. And then she had on one of those headpieces that some women wear to church. It was a little hat, a hairpiece with a flower on it, and it was a little hat with a flower on the front. And then how the veils are, those little veils, obviously not a wedding veil, but it was just a little church one. I don't know how to explain it. So whenever I looked at her, I just remember her being golden and warm and had light. She was kind of clear, but an outline of golden. I could kind of see some detail on her face, but not much because the veil covered half of her face, but it was a sheer veil, but I still couldn't see her face that well. And I just caught a glimpse of it for a second, and then she was gone. And I just remember seeing that, and I was spooked because I was a child, but I don't remember feeling like any negative energy from that. And part of me likes to think that was potentially my granny visiting me. I could be wrong, but my grandma's mother was alive whenever I was very young, and I have a few memories of her. Not many because she passed away when I was young. I can't remember if she had passed in my grandmother's house or if they had took her to the hospital and she passed on there. I would have to ask my grandma if she passed away in the house or not. Like I said, I don't remember. But the woman just kind of resembled my granny.
I grew up in a haunted house from when I was 9 to 19, but the activity just got so much worse when I was pregnant. And I don't know if it was just like, it couldn't have been just me because we all kind of experienced it. There was one time when my mom had left already, and she would always leave like around 9 to go to her Zumba class. And so I already knew like her whole routine. So I heard her telling me that she was leaving, and I was like, all right, bye. So I get out of bed, go down the hall to the restroom. I locked the door, and then I heard somebody walking back in through the front door, which there was like a wall that would divide it. And so I heard how they unlocked the door, walked all across the living room into my mom's bathroom, and then they switched the light on. So, I'm thinking it's her. I was like, hey, what did you forget? Or, what happened? Didn't hear anything. So I come out of the bathroom and she was like nowhere to be found. So then I start freaking out like, okay, that wasn't my mom. Then like, what was it? So then I call her and she's like already like down the street. But like the door was locked. There was nothing, like nobody had came into the house, right? So then I go into her room and sure enough, the bathroom light was on, which she says that she turned it off. So then I start to notice that most of the weird things that happen are somewhere either in the hallway or in that bathroom. Because another time I like got up in the morning, went to go pee. And so we had this like small mirror that was kind of in front of the toilet. So I'm like looking up and then I just see that it said, don't be sad, but in Spanish. So I'm like, what the, like who wrote that? But it looked like it had been, so like whenever you shower and the whole bathroom gets all steamy and then, you write in the mirror, that's what it looked like. But no one had showered yet because I had just gotten up. And like the rest of the bathroom wasn't steamy or anything. It was just that mirror. So I don't know. Maybe it was the old lady that was there well, not the old lady, but like the old lady spirit. And she just knew that I was like going through it at the time and she wanted to make me feel a little better. But those are some of the most like lighthearted ones, I guess you could say, because there were other things that happened, that were a little bit more like scary. But whatever was there for sure did not like my daughter's dad. He was the only one that was actually like, I guess, harmed during all of this because they knew that he was a bad person and wanted to get him out of the house. But other than that, there were people that were more sensitive to these things that did not want to go inside. Like I have he's like my cousin, I think. And they all came over for a cookout and he stayed in the car the whole time. Because he was like, absolutely not. I'm not going in there. And I mean, I get it. That was scary. But I guess I got used to living with them. And so that's why now whenever things happen here, like sometimes I'll just see somebody like walking past me and it's like nothing. Like, okay.
Let me tell you guys the story about how I saw something pretending to be a dog crossing the road in the middle of the night. So this story happened to me about 4 years ago. I live in a very rural area. And so there's a lot of kind of like dark, windy roads that I have to drive pretty often. Where my sister and my best friend live is about 10 minutes away from where I live. But I have to drive up a little mountain and then down a little mountain in order to get there. So I'm leaving my best friend's house late at night. It's probably 2 o'clock in the morning at this point. I'm driving that mountain road all the way up and all the way down. I'm coming down the other side. It's very dark. There's the occasional streetlight here and there, but for the most part, it's pitch black if you have no headlights on. So after I come off the windier part of the road, there's just a long stretch of dark road that has like maybe 3 streetlights on it, but like way off in the distance. So as I'm driving, I notice one of the streetlights, there's something moving underneath it. As I get just a little bit closer, I notice it's like a dog or something crossing the road. but it looks weird. It looks like it's walking weird, like it's almost a little bit like hunched back. So I'm watching this thing cross the road. I'm thinking it's either a dog or it's a coyote. So I turn on my high beam so that way hopefully I can like see it a little bit better before I get up close to it. As I'm approaching where this streetlight is and where the dog was crossing the road, I kind of slow down and I'm looking out all of my windows to see where it went because I'm just curious if it was a dog or if it was a coyote. At this point, I went from probably going 50 miles an hour down to like 5 because I'm really looking for this thing. I then look out my passenger side window and I see a woman standing there just staring at me. And again, my car's moving, but I'm going slow. So we make eye contact and she's just staring. And I'm realizing that this is exactly where the dog would have been. I immediately started thinking like, oh my God, this woman better be careful. There is like a dog or a coyote or some sort of animal out here. And she's out here alone by herself at 2:00 in the morning. I'm not dumb though. I don't stop because I know better than to stop for people in the middle of the night because you never know what could happen. But when I'm leaving there, I'm driving down. I look in my rearview mirror and I don't see her anymore. I'm trying to figure out like where she went and like what she's doing out there, but she's just gone.
Y'all know I grew up on haunted land in the Appalachian Mountains. I have an update. Something new happened. My dad borrowed this backhoe off of his buddy so he could help me, build a driveway and dig out water lines. And in the meantime, he's building himself a driveway to, the top of the mountain where they plan to eventually build a home. Well, the other night, whenever he got done working, he parked the backhoe behind, the old cabin that I've posted videos of, just to try to hide it, just so it's not out in, plain sight. Several hours go by, and him and my mom are sitting on the couch, and they start seeing flashing lights coming in through the window. And they live in Appalachia, so it's, pitch black dark outside. There's not a street light around. My dad assumed he just left the hazard lights on, so he told Mom he's gonna walk over there and turn them off. He'd be right back. So he comes back and he has the weirdest look on his face. My mom was like, "What's wrong?" He said he made his way across the creek and around the old cabin, and right as he made it to the backhoe and reached up to turn it off, the lights just shut off. And then he realized he had the keys in his pocket the entire time, and you can't turn the lights on without the key. My dad doesn't scare very easily, but even he was weirded out. I wonder if it's my great-great-great-grandparents' spirits messing with him or something else.
So something incredibly creepy happened to me on Monday night. So this past week, my husband and I and our daughter went to New Hampshire from down south to go and visit my in-laws. If you're from New Hampshire, you might know that most houses in New Hampshire don't have air conditioning. So it's late at night, the windows are open, and my in-laws live in the area of New Hampshire that is at the tail end of the Appalachian Mountain chain near the lakes. So my daughter was already asleep. It's about 11 o'clock at night. The windows are open, and their house backs up to the woods on top of this really tall hill, kind of like not really a mini mountain, but it's a pretty tall hill. So my husband's on his phone, I'm on my phone. It's not really loud when I hear my daughter call my name from outside the house.
If you made it this far, thank you for exploring the paranormal side of Appalachia with me. These mountains hold centuries of secrets, and we're only scratching the surface. Make sure to subscribe, and as always, stay safe, stay aware, and question everything.